Hello and welcome to the Satluj Podcast. In 1946, as India achieved independence from the British Empire, one of the key architects of what followed, Jawaharlal Nehru, told Sikh leaders at the time, "The brave Sikhs of Punjab are entitled to special consideration. I see nothing wrong in an area set up in the north where the Sikhs can experience the glow of freedom." Yet, 79 years later, Sikhs are still battling for that so-called promise of their own sovereign homeland to be delivered. To discuss how Khalistan can now instead be delivered through a modern legal process against the efforts of a resistant India ruling elite of that said country, I'm joined by our regular guest, Dr. Gurinder Singh Grewal, MD. Dr. Grewal, welcome. Thank you for joining us once again today.
Good morning, Angus. Thanks for having me.
Now, Dr. Grewal, of course, we're witnessing the rollout of the Khalistan Referendum around the world, which is at last giving a democratic voice to the Sikh diaspora, despite that same democratic voice ironically being denied them in Punjab itself. Now, this referendum is expected to deliver a resounding yes to the establishment of a sovereign Sikh state of Khalistan. Yet, this referendum is not legally binding. Does that matter?
So, we will discuss in detail. Let me start with the Khalistan referendum. It is a catalyst for self-determination, mirroring historical nation-building votes and highlighting the Sikh diaspora's strategic importance to the USA. Khalistan referendum is very much like historical non-binding referendums that led to new nations like Norway or South Sudan, demonstrating the profound power of a popular vote to express aspirations for self-determination and identity. This movement, fueled by India's unrest, historical grievances, and political promoting Hindu majoritarianism that undermine national unity, consequently position the influential Sikh diaspora as a crucial strategic ally for the United States in South Asia. So this is, very, very important. Sikhs for Justice started this movement, and I am very, very grateful to them bringing this issue of Sikh grievances, Sikh problems at the world level and other people to understand. I think this is the most influential movement for Sikh cause we have at the world stage. And I think we owe this to Sikhs for Justice. You know, they are not doing for themselves, they are doing for our nation. And this is a very, very powerful movement. Now they have, I think, in 8 countries. Recently in Washington, D.C., that's the not only capital of US, I think is a capital of world politics. There were 16,500 people voted yes. That's a lot. I think India tries everything to make sure it doesn't happen or sabotage, but the movement is still strong.
So, Dr. Grewal, as I mentioned in the introduction, this referendum is non-binding, despite the fact it is being overseen by democratic experts to ensure that it is run fairly and according to normal democratic processes. So it will stand up in a legal court of law should it ever be questioned. But ultimately, it is not binding. Now, can you give us some examples, though? There have been countries that have broken away, have become independent through non-binding referendums. Could you give us some examples of those?
Yes, I can give you a few examples. It's very interesting. I did not know until I researched this subject. And it's very important for everybody to know, especially for the Sikh community. So let's see what's a referendum. Referendum is a democratic governance where people vote on a single issue, and that vote is yes or no. It's only always on a single issue. It could be changing the law, changing the geographical part of the country, etc. So when the referendum is binding, means the government is bound to accept the results of that. Maybe they will like it or not. So binding referendum, just like we had the Brexit. So most of the government people wanted to stay, but the popular movement was against it. It was only, I think, difference about 2+%. And the Brexit won, and England got out of European Union. So that's a binding referendum. Non-binding referendum is more like an opinion poll, where people express their opinion on a single issue, yes or no, but it is not binding on the government, although this has resulted in creating new countries. Several of the examples are Norway. Norway in 1814 made a union with Sweden, but it was not working for the people, and they felt their sovereignty was not respected. They didn't have enough say in the foreign affairs. So 1905, there was a referendum in Norway. It was a non-binding. 99.95% of the people voted yes to separate from Sweden. And the Swedish government accepted it without any war and all that, and Norway became independent country. That's the most impressive movement. So then another example, Iceland. Iceland was part of Denmark. So it was occupied by Germany during the war, and then after that, the people in Iceland had more and more desire to be independent of Denmark. So they had a referendum in 1944. The yes vote to leave Denmark was 98.6%, which was accepted by Denmark, and Iceland became an independent country. So another example is Eritrea. Eritrea was a part of Ethiopia, and they had 30 years war of liberation, which the Liberation Army won, and then they held the referendum in 1993. A near unanimous vote for independence was accepted by Ethiopia, and Eritrea became a new country. So another example, Montenegro. So from Yugoslavia, Montenegro and Serbia separated, and they formed their own union. But then it was not working for people of Montenegro, neither for Serbia. They had a referendum, which was non-binding referendum in 2006, 55.5%, only 55.5%, not like overwhelming majority in the previous examples, voted yes to separate, and Montenegro became a new country. So the last one that I can quote is South Sudan. You know, Sudan, North and South had a lot of problems with each other. Different population, different religion, different language. They have been fighting for a long time. So in 2011, there was a non-binding referendum. Yes vote to separate from South main country was 98.8%, which was accepted by Sudan and also by international community. It became a country. So next country is Bangladesh. There was no referendum, but 1971, they had overwhelming support due to the civil war and international support. It became a country. So there are many, many examples. There's no need to get discouraged by my people that is non-binding. The non-binding can become binding, depends upon how much support we have, what are the circumstances. So some of the key conditions for success of non-binding referendum are overwhelming public support. You've seen some of the support was almost unanimous in favor of non-binding referendums, like in Norway, and they became a country. Breakdown, withdrawal of central government authority. So this is very important. This can happen without war. So in India, circumstances are pretty ripe for that. South want to separate, Kashmir is having problem, Sikhs want to separate out, and the eastern states also want to separate out. I think collapse of the Indian government can be key factor in this non-binding referendum to become successful. Peace agreements or armed conflict resolution sometimes end up in acceptance or non-binding. Willingness or inability, like we said before, India may be not ready to accepted, but they have no way to fight it. So the non-binding can become binding referendum. There have been some other unsuccessful ones, but I think we want to focus on this successful one. Because if you focus on unsuccessful ones, they influence your mind. So I always like to focus on the successful things, how to do things. So these are some of the examples that I can quote.
So, Dr. Grewal, there are, of course, many, many arguments to support the case for Khalistan. We've talked about many in the past. But let's set out, let's go through most of the, let's say, the major arguments, the pro-arguments for the establishment of Khalistan. And let's, as a starter, let's wind the clock back. Let's look historically back to 1947. As I said in the opening introduction, promises were made to the Sikh people in 1946 and 1947. Around that time, those promises were broken. So, can you start us off then? Let's talk about some of the arguments that support the idea of the establishment of Khalistan.
Okay, that I will do that. But let me just go back a little bit. So, binding versus non-binding. Brexit was a binding referendum, and Khalistan referendum is not binding referendum. But there are a lot of similarities for the reason that both are happening. The British joined EU in 1973, but the people of Britain was not happy. They felt they had lost their sovereignty. They have very little to say in immigration policies. And they were giving, initially was at 350, but the actual number in the end came to they were giving 150 million pounds to European Union every week, which is a big amount. So the people in Britain felt that they had their own country and this new union is not helping them, so they had a referendum. So basics was unhappiness, having their own country, and they want to separate out. It was not like they want to hurt EU, they just want their country back. So the Sikhs had their own empire till 1939, when Maharaja Ranjit Singh passed away, and 10 years of bloody war of succession left them weak, and the British occupied in 1849. So British had India and Punjab till 1947. When they left, the British divided India into two countries. Sikhs was the third party, but somehow leaders at that time did not understand the importance of, or whatever the reasons are, we need to go back. Well, what happened was they were given assurances. They were given assurance, like you said, that Nehru and Gandhi said they see nothing wrong that after the independence, Sikhs can enjoy their own freedom and glow of freedom and somewhere in the north. So that was a promise that Sikhs will have some autonomy and have their own field. So this was, as soon as the country became independent, their behavior changed. So those things would never happen. The Sikhs were fighting after 1947 constantly. Then there was Punjabi Suba movement where thousands of people went to jail almost for 2 months. And still it took many years till 1966 to have Punjabi Suba based on the language. So what they did, they divided the state into three. All the agreements in this new organization thing are so stupid. I don't know why people of my state agree to any one of them. So everything controlled by the central government. The state of Punjab have no control or anything. The capital is still with India. Water sources, Bhakra Dam, all that are controlled with India. So everything which was promised was not honored. So that resulted into the unhappiness of the Sikh masses. Even though they can always pull one or two person and give them some ministership and promise them, but the underlying grievances of Sikh masses had never been addressed, and Sikhs have increasing desire to separate out. I think we can go on. I think we have talked before the betrayal of the Sikhs, so many things. We won't have time to list everything. But mostly, not only politically, economically, and religiously, culturally, language-wise, we feel betrayed. Nothing has been honored what was promised. In fact, our identity is under threat.
And of course, there are many dynamics in play in this whole argument. Of course, there is the push-pull factors. That the pull factors is, of course, the Sikh community, the Sikh people want their own right to self-determination. But of course, there are push factors coming from India itself. It is actually the way that India is being governed, certainly at least in present-day India, but it does, of course, go back historically with Brahmanical control of India. But ultimately, there is this drive driven by Hindutva, by the RSS forces for what they call this Hindu Rashtra, this Hindu-dominated, basically this Hindu-exclusive country. And of course, that pushes out the minorities, pushes out the Sikhs, the Muslims, the Christians, any other minority. Anybody who is not a Hindu is going to naturally feel alienated in what they are pushing for, this country of India that they are trying to create, this Hindu Rashtra. So would you agree then that one of the other key drivers behind Khalistan isn't just, of course, just a simple right to self-determination? It is that Sikhs are now feeling pushed out, even geographically speaking, from their own, and religiously speaking, from their own land.
Yes. 1950 or 51, when the Constitution was accepted, according to Article 25, we are included in Hinduism. We are Hindus. And that's the starting point when the two Sikh representatives argue with the people in power, but their argument didn't get anywhere. So if you are a Sikh couple now, you are married, your certificate will be given according to Hindu Marriage Act. We are not Hindus. Why do we need to be called Hindus? So increasingly this RSS, which say cultural organization, their political party, BJP, and other organizations come into power. So look at the last August 15th, India's Independence Day speech by Prime Minister. He spent more time recognizing contributions of RSS than addressing the country's problem. Because he feels if RSS is unhappy, he will be removed. So this is the state of the affairs. Even though these people seem to be in power, but they have no power. They are working for this organization called RSS. So they have increasing control, and the minorities, Sikhs, Muslims, Dalits, Christians, they are being harassed, looted, killed, humiliated, and what other word you can do every day in India. And there is no day go by when you don't read anything like that. So everybody from minority community feels marginalized. The Sikhs being concentrated in one state and having a large diaspora, which is very influential and successful professionally, educationally, financially. Now they feel like they feel, which is me too, we feel we have to the voice of our community. So to give voice to our community, it is our moral responsibility. And the Sikhs for Justice have taught us a method where we can explain to the rest of the world who we are, what we need, and why we are asking for this. The Sikh prayer is done every day privately in Gurdwaras. It ends with Raj Karega Khalsa, so Khalsa shall rule. So Sikhs for Justice is not telling us anything new. They have found a method in this referendum, even though non-binary referendum, to let the world know what you are saying inside. Now go to public and tell the rest of the world what your grievances are and what you need. So I think it's become a very powerful movement. Sikh diaspora has become increasingly powerful because more persecution by India government, more resentment, and stronger we get. Look at the referendum. I think as Sikhs may not have realized the importance of referendum, they realized more strongly. That's why they started this transnational repression. They killed Harjit Singh Nijjar in Surrey, Canada, a gentleman who committed no crime. And that murder by India has galvanized this movement. And they tried to assassinate Gurpatwant Singh Pannu. That case is still going on. They killed Harjit Singh Kanda in England. So more repression they do on us, the worse it's going to get for them. More stronger we will become. I think this is all because of bad policies they have, but they don't realize. They don't realize they are corrupted and blinded by the power they have. Look at the news from yesterday. So the US is trying to increase tariffs on them, but there was news that they have found some ammunition used by Russia on Ukrainians that was built in India. According to this news, $4 billion worth of weapons was supplied by India to Russia to use on Ukraine and paid to India in rupees because they have a power problem with the dollars. So now the rest of the free world, especially NATO people, have to think when they are making deals with India, how they are backstabbing.
Well, that's actually a very interesting point because, of course, India declares itself very publicly, we are the world's largest democracy, and yet the way it behaves, the way it behaves particularly with its own people and its oppression of various minorities, its ignoring of human rights, its human rights abuses are well known and well documented. So would you say then that, again, coming back to the key drivers of Khalistan, would you say that the Sikh people are actually ideologically more aligned to the West than India itself? Certainly if you examine the actual behaviour of the Sikh people compared to the behaviour of the Indian government, particularly I'm looking at, those two, the behaviour between those two parties is very contrasting. India claims to be a democracy, yet its behaviour acts directly opposed to that. Sikhs have always said we operate under democratic principles, their own unique democratic principles under the Khalsa, and yet, so one has to ask then, who actually of the two is more aligned to the West? It's pretty clear, isn't it?
Yes. Sikhs teachings are very much like the American Constitution. Everybody is equal, created equal by God. So there's no casteism in Sikhism if you read Guru Granth Sahib. And Sikhs feel everybody's equal, everybody has the right to exist, and Sikhs are very democratic. The Sarvat Khalsa is a very democratic institution, so we believe in the rule of democracy, not dictatorship, not Hindu Rashtra, not theocracy. So Sikh not asking for Khalistan to be theocratic state. Rule of Maharaja Ranjit Singh was never a theocratic state. Sikhs believe in service, seva. During COVID, how many Sikh organizations, Gurdwara, came forward and helped the needy. Even in India, when they wouldn't go near them, Gurdwara supplied oxygen cylinders in Delhi. So there are many, many examples of that. Because Sikhs also feel that they have a right to wear weapons, which is also according to the US Constitution. Sikhs feel in a strong defense. So our value system is very much aligned with the American system of government. Now, I think seeing India's behavior, even the NATO countries have to reconsider who is their friend. Having a strong Sikh state, we call Khalistan, in that part of the world will be very much keeping the balance between India and China. The Sikhs Sikhs are strong believers of human rights. They have been fighting for human rights for a long time. Guru Tegh Bahadur sacrificed his life for people to practice their own religion, whosoever they were, not necessarily for his own. So we have this long history, which is very much like the democratic systems of Western countries, especially US, Canada, UK, and other countries.
So, Dr. Grewal, as we approach the end of our discussion, there's two areas particularly I just want to focus on towards the end now. And first of all, I talked about push and pull factors. Of course, the push factors is India, the behaviour of India. But of course, this is primarily being driven by Hindutva, by the RSS forces, this Hindutva extremist nationalist mindset. And the other area, of course, is as a result of this, and certainly over their behaviour over the last decades, has driven a lot of Sikh people out of the Punjab. They have become this large diaspora, this global diaspora. So I want to talk about diaspora in a moment, but before I do that, can you talk about Hindutva itself? Do you believe Hindutva has damaged, has weakened, is really holding India back? Do you think it is a very negative force for India as a nation?
Because the Hindutva people have one agenda. They want Hindu India. One language, one religion, one people. India has 14 some plus official languages. There are many religions. And they want to convert everybody to Hinduism. They have anti-conversion laws in several states which are ruled by BJP. So if a non-Christian, non-Muslim becomes Christian or Muslim, they are tried. Even some have become a Sikh, even though they consider as Hindus. They are being tried and harassed, and not only by judiciary, by police, and the people on the streets. So this has become increasing alienation of the minorities. So minorities have no right to exist there unless even if you let's say if you are a non-Hindu, you become a Hindu. You are still not equal to the others. You're still low caste. So why would somebody adopt their ideology when they are going to treat them from birth to life like a low-class people? If you're born in a so-called low-class family, you cannot change your future. You can get education, you can get money, you can get a bigger house, but you are still a low class. So that, I think, is a fueling the movement for independence. As people get educated, more and more will ask for more freedom rather than accepting this oppression of Brahmanism. Brahman, according to their scriptures, Brahman is God-given superior. But which God? Not my God. My God never gave Brahman superiority. Maybe their God, the God they have in stones in different places, who doesn't protect them. So I think we are not willing to accept the superiority of Hindutva or RSS. This is one of the major factors for which India will collapse, and there'll be multiple regional new countries or new governments. I think it's a matter of time that this will happen.
And of course, one of the obvious results of this oppression of Hindutva forces over the decades has been Sikhs voting with their feet. Millions of Sikhs have fled the Punjab, literally in many cases for their lives, which has created this enormous diaspora around the world, whether it's the US, the UK, Europe, and of course Canada. Now, as the drive for Khalistan gathers pace, and it is definitely gathering momentum, it is growing support from all around the world now. And at the front end, it is very much being driven by the activists in the diaspora, because they feel free enough. They live in democratic countries where they have the benefit of freedom of speech. Of course, in the Punjab, they don't enjoy similar freedoms in supposedly democratic India. Punjabi pro-Khalistan activists dare not speak out for fear of what will happen to them, which in itself, I think, speaks volumes about the genuine sincerity of democracy in India. But ultimately, the diaspora itself is the key driver behind the Khalistan movement. Can you talk through? Let's look at the diaspora in a bit more detail. And can you talk about why it is so powerful, why it is so relevant, and what ultimately it can offer the Khalistan movement?
So. Let's just say a little bit about the issue you raised with Punjab. Yes, Punjab, they are not allowed to have a referendum. But if you look at the last elections, One gentleman called Amritpal Singh. I don't know much about him. What I know is by reading newspapers and all that. So he is supposed to be champion of Khalistan. He was put in jail and he became a candidate to parliament from one area in Punjab. He's in jail, has no political backing and no money to fight this election. He won that election by 197,000 votes, more than his opponents. So people spoke. So that is, to me, will be the referendum if India allows. This is the free exercise of their right by Sikhs in a small community when they are given a chance. So the referendum, yes, diaspora, we are having a referendum, but the referendum, if it's allowed to happen in India, will be in Punjab, will be very similar. This is the best example that I can come up with. So Sikhs, there's about 30 million people together. About 4 million are outside India. Canada, they are about maybe close to 1 million. I don't know exact number. Some people say 800,000, some million, maybe there's more. They have become very influential. So Jagmeet Singh was a leader of third party. There are three political parties. And he was able to accomplish many things according to his party's agenda. There are many Sikh ministers in present government, previous government in Canada. So they are able to fight or do whatever they can to reduce India's influence. India is become a condemned state in Canada according to law and order situation there. The Canadian law and enforcement people are blaming India for causing a lot of crime there, which is a public knowledge. It's not just me saying. So Sikhs in UK also have become members of parliament. They are, I think, exerting their influence according to Sikh teaching, whatever is allowed in the system. So their presence, I think, is helping the Sikh cause. So they're not, we are hiding inside, we are in the public stage. In the US, we don't have many congressmen, but Sikhs have, since 1984, exerted more influence through their congressmen in the US Congress and with the US government. So at a small level, many places there are now Sikh mayors, Sikh city council members, and they will be soon at a higher level. There was a lady from Sikh family who was even governor of South Carolina. The last place you can imagine, South Carolina, there'll be governor from Sikh family. How much she is doing for Sikhs and all that, that's up to her. But at least the Sikhs are being recognized a minority with good faith, good feeling. Yeah, there'll be some bad apples which are in every society, but overall Sikh teachings are very much aligned, and Sikhs in their neighborhood, in their new country of adoption, are well respected, they're hardworking, and I think this helps the diaspora in bringing to the public their grievances, what their own people are feeling back home. So I think we have the right to voice the miserable conditions of our brothers and sisters back home. India has nobody to tell us to shut up. We will continue this. This is our right. This is a God-given right, and we will continue as long as we are alive.
Indeed. And as a final question, Dr. Grewal, of course, it's all very well supporting the concept of Khalistan, but to actually make it a reality does require logical steps. It requires practical steps to make it happen. In terms of, as a simple guide, a model, what would your advice be to people to make this happen? What practical steps does the diaspora, does the community need to make?
So, we need to enlighten us with the new ideas. Here is a book. You can see it? Okay. So this book is written by Matt Kawartru. I could be pronouncing wrong, but that's how I learned. The book is I Want to Break Free, a practical guide to making a new country. So things like that can be very helpful, enlightening us, understanding how the rest of the world works and how we fit in and how we can use these things. I think I will hope if you can show it again. So as we go along, I think learning is a lifelong process and the struggle is forever. I think we will educate ourselves and adapt to new ideas the best we can. And hopefully with the help of Angus and Satluj TV, we will be able to air our thought process, our grievances and solutions more freely.
Indeed, we look forward to that very day. But there we must leave it, but we'll be talking again with Dr. Grewal soon to continue our discussion. Dr. Grewal, as always, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Angus. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.
And thank you for watching the Satluj TV podcast. We will see you next time.